Hey folks, and welcome back. We're going to start learning about loops today. A loop lets you repeat parts of your code over and over again until some predetermined condition exists. Now there are three main types of loops: while loops, do loops, and for loops. Today we're going to learn about while and do loops. Now the first one is the while loop. This lets you repeat sections of your code as long as an expression is true. A generic form of this type of loop is while expression statement. As soon as the expression is false, the program moves on to the statement after the loop. But as long as that expression is true, the program will keep executing that statement in the loop body over and over again, then going back to the beginning of the test expression. Only when the expression is false will the loop end. We'll see that here in the play again program. Now this would come at the end of a game. It would ask the player if they want to play again. If they press yes, Y for yes, then the game restarts. After it's over, we go back to the question, do you want to play again? When the player presses N for no, then the program ends. So let's go ahead and get started. We've created a new C++ document, and I'm going to name it play_again.cpp. We'll give the title in a comment, and then just a brief description of what I expect the program to do. I include IOStream as usual, and I give a directive to use the std namespace and open my main function. Now I'm declaring a character variable named again, and I'm initializing it to y. And I'm doing that because I'm starting right into my test expression, while again is equal to y. If I didn't predefine that variable as y, then we would never get into the body of the loop where it says we played an exciting game, and then asks, do you want to play again? Okay, and I tell the user what answers I'm expecting, Y or N. That just gives them a prompt of what they need to check for. I let them input their yes or no into the again variable. Once the loop is over, I say okay, bye, and then return 0 to end my main function. Okay, with that done, let's go ahead and compile it and see what happens. It says, do you want to play again? I'll say yes, I'll say yes, now I'll say no. Only when I say no does it actually stop running the program. And that's because that's the way my loop is designed. Now, I don't like the fact that my OK bye ends up mashing with my prompt, so I'm going to add in my /n, recompile, and test it, and now our prompt goes on a new line. Okay, now notice that if I had not predefined that y as the again variable, we would have never entered into the body of the loop. It would have never prompted the player, do you want to play again? Okay, now we'll move on to the do loop. Just like a while loop, a do loop lets you repeat a section of code based on a particular expression. The difference between a do loop and a while loop, though, is that the do loop tests the expression after each loop instead of before. This means that the body of the loop will definitely get executed at least once. A generic form of a do loop says do statement while expression. It performs the statement, the body of the loop, and then it tests the expression to see if it's true. The program executes that statement, and then as long as the expression tests true, the loop repeats. As soon as the expression tests false, the loop ends. So now we're going to revise our play again program and use a do loop instead of a while loop. This way we don't have to initialize that again variable to y before we start the loop. Our loop body is guaranteed to run at least once, so we don't need to cheat it by setting that expression to true in advance. Okay, so I've created a new document. I'll name it playagain2.cpp and save it in my folder. And I'll put in my initial comments, the name of the program and the version. And then I'll just say that it demonstrates a do loop. We include IOStream, have a directive that we're using the std namespace, and open up our main function. I'll declare the variable, again, as a car, but this time I don't predefine it. I have do, and then my statement is cout, played an exciting game, and ask the player, do you want to play again? Then I'll get their input and put it into the again variable. And that's the end of my statement. And then I have my test, while again is equal to y. So my loop will repeat as long as again is equal to y. Once again is no longer equal to y, we'll say okay, bye, and then we'll return 0 to end our main function, close out our main function. Now I'll save my file, and we'll come back over here and compile. It asks, do you want to play again? Yes, yes, no. Works the same as before. The only difference here is that we're testing our expression after we run the body of our loop. Okay, now I just want to give you a word of warning about loops. It's really easy to code what's called an infinite loop. That's a loop that can never end. This happens because there's no way for the test to ever return false. An example of that would be right here. Okay, I'm creating a program. I'll call it infloop.cpp. And we'll just put a comment, infinite loop, and demonstrates what not to do. Include IOStream. Declare that we're using the std namespace. And start our main function. I'm going to create an integer called test, and I'm going to set it equal to 10. Now I'm going to have a while loop that says while test is equal to 10, execute this statement. The statement, all it does is output the contents of test to the console, then it ends. Return 0, not that it really matters, as you'll see in a moment. I compile that, and then I run it. And you can see that it doesn't stop until I kill the program. In my case, I can do Control C, and that will kill the program. Um, because test never changes, the loop never stops, and the user has to kill the program in order to get out of it. This is bad. So always make sure that there's some way for your loop to end, either by making sure that the test can become false, or by using the break and continue statements that we've looked at in our switch statements, but we'll talk about in more detail next week. We will continue with the week 3 material next week. This is a little more complicated, so I want to take it a little bit slow and make sure that you understand the switch statement and then the loops. And then next week we'll continue with this chapter, with chapter 2, and finish it out. We'll learn about the random sequence. We'll learn more about break and continue, and we'll learn about how to plan out your programs. The A couple of you that I spoke with, you were having difficulty in homework assignment 1, not because you didn't understand the programming, but I think because you weren't really thinking through what it was you were trying to do. Um, it's easy to get caught up in, oh, what type of programming do I use for this, and not think about, well, okay, if I want to get an average, how do I calculate an average? Is there some programmatic thing that I missed, or do I just add the 3 things together and then divide them by 3? I think that might have thrown a couple of you for a bit of a loop. So this chapter does introduce you to the concept of flow charting, of developing an algorithm to figure out, okay, what am I trying to do? What steps do I need to take? And we'll focus on that along with the break and the continue statements next week. So have a good weekend. As always, if you have any problems, email me and I'll be more than happy to help. Thanks. Talk to you later.